side in place of Hornacek, Miley, Elanga, Wissa, Barnes and Asula. James Morrison also makes 6 changes of his own from the Burnley win. O'Leary, Galvez, Phillips, Styles, Malumbi and Meyer all miss out, with Ingram, Townsend, Mepham, Williams, Nzagula and Stewart all starting ahead of them. So for Newcastle, it's Ewan Zhawen in goal, a back four of Hall, Botman, Chow and Dedic, midfield 2 of Ramsey and Sturr, with Torre, Willock and Murphy supporting Voltemada through the middle. As for West Brom's Ingram in goal, a back four of Williams, Mepham, Campbell and Townsend, midfield 4 of Whitwell, Nzagula, Diakite and Price, with Stewart and Morgan making up the front 2. Newcastle United host West Brom at St James's Park in the second round of the AILFC Cup at 7:45 this evening. The Magpies have reached the semi-finals of this competition in 3 of the last 4 seasons and lifted the trophy back in the 24-25 campaign. Under new manager Matthias Jaisler, Newcastle got their Premier League campaign off to a strong start, drawing 2-2 with Liverpool last time out. It could have been even better, however, had Lewis Hall not conceded an injury time penalty, but there were plenty of positives to take for Magpies fans. Their opponents tonight, West Brom, have enjoyed a similarly impressive start to the new season, having won each of their 2 openers in the Championship against Norwich and Burnley, as well as their first round EFL Cup tie against Rotherham. The Baggies have scored 5 in their first 2 league games of the new campaign, so there will be plenty to look out for Newcastle, who conceded 2 against Liverpool on Sunday. Matthias Jaisler makes 6 changes from the game at the weekend. Zhawen, Ramsey, Murphy, Willock, Torre and Voltemada all come into the side in place of Hornacek, Miley, Elanga, Wissa, Barnes and Asula. James Morrison also makes 6 changes of his own from the Burnley win. O'Leary, Galvez, Phillips, Styles, Malumbi and Meyer all miss out, with Ingram, Townsend, Mepham, Williams, Nzagula and Stewart all starting ahead of them. So for Newcastle, it's Ewan Zhawen in goal, a back four of Hall, Botman, Chow and Dedic, midfield 2 of Ramsey and Sturr, with Torre, Willock and Murphy supporting Voltemada through the middle. As for West Brom's Ingram in goal, a back four of Williams, Mepham, Campbell and Townsend, midfield 4 of Whitwell, Nzagula, Diakite and Price, with Stewart and Morgan making up the front 2. Newcastle United host West Brom at St James's Park in the second round of the AILFC Cup at 7:45 this evening. The Magpies have reached the semi-finals of this competition in 3 of the last 4 seasons and lifted the trophy back in the 24-25 campaign. Under new manager Matthias Jaisler, Newcastle got their Premier League campaign off to a strong start, drawing 2-2 with Liverpool last time out. It could have been even better, however, had Lewis Hall not conceded an injury time penalty, but there were plenty of positives to take for Magpies fans. Their opponents tonight, West Brom, have enjoyed a similarly impressive start to the new season, having won each of their 2 openers in the Championship against Norwich and Burnley, as well as their first round EFL Cup tie against Rotherham. The Baggies have scored 5 in their first 2 league games of the new campaign, so there will be plenty to look out for Newcastle, who conceded 2 against Liverpool on Sunday. Matthias Jaisler makes 6 changes from the game at the weekend. Zhawen, Ramsey, Murphy, Willock, Torre and Voltemada all come into the side in place of Hornacek, Miley, Elanga, Wissa, Barnes and Asula. James Morrison also makes 6 changes of his own from the Burnley win. O'Leary, Galvez, Phillips, Styles, Malumbi and Meyer all miss out, with Ingram, Townsend, Mepham, Williams, Nzagula and Stewart all starting ahead of them. So for Newcastle, it's Ewan Zhawen in goal, a back four of Hall, Botman, Chow and Dedic, midfield 2 of Ramsey and Sturr, with Torre, Willock and Murphy supporting Voltemada through the middle. As for West Brom's Ingram in goal, a back four of Williams, Mepham, Campbell and Townsend, midfield 4 of Whitwell, Nzagula, Diakite and Price, with Stewart and Morgan making up the front 2. Newcastle United host West Brom at St James's Park in the second round of the AILFC Cup at 7:45 this evening. The Magpies have reached the semi-finals of this competition in 3 of the last 4 seasons and lifted the trophy back in the 24-25 campaign. Under new manager Matthias Jaisler, Newcastle got their Premier League campaign off to a strong start, drawing 2-2 with Liverpool last time out. It could have been even better, however, had Lewis Hall not conceded an injury time penalty, but there were plenty of positives to take for Magpies fans. Their opponents tonight, West Brom, have enjoyed a similarly impressive start to the new season, having won each of their 2 openers in the Championship against Norwich and Burnley, as well as their first round EFL Cup tie against Rotherham. The Baggies have scored 5 in their first 2 league games of the new campaign, so there'll be plenty to look out for Newcastle, who conceded 2 against Liverpool on Sunday. Matthias Jaisler makes 6 changes from the game at the weekend. Johan, Ramsey, Murphy, Willock, Toure and Voltemade all come into the side in place of Hornacek, Miley, Elanga, Wissa, Barnes and Asula. James Morrison also makes 6 changes of his own from the Burnley win. O'Leary, Galvez, Phillips, Styles, Malumbi and Meyer all miss out, with Ingram, Townsend, Mepham, Williams, Nzagula and Stewart all starting ahead of them. So for Newcastle, it's Ewan Zhaoen in goal, a back four of Hall, Botman, Chow and Dedic, midfield 2 of Ramsey and Sturr, with Toure, Willock and Murphy supporting Voltemade through the middle. As for West Brom's Ingram in goal, a back four of Williams, Mepham, Campbell and Townsend, midfield 4 of Whitwell, Nzagula, Diakite and Price, with Stewart and Morgan making up the front 2. Newcastle United host West Brom at St James's Park in the second round of the AILFC Cup at 7:45 this evening. The Magpies have reached the semi-finals of this competition in 3 of the last 4 seasons and lifted the trophy back in the 24-25 campaign. Under new manager Matthias Jaisler, Newcastle got their Premier League campaign off to a strong start, drawing 2-2 with Liverpool last time out. It could have been even better, however, had Lewis Hall not conceded an injury time penalty, but there were plenty of positives to take for Magpies fans. Their opponents tonight, West Brom, have enjoyed a similarly impressive start to the new season, having won each of their 2 openers in the Championship against Norwich and Burnley, as well as their first round EFL Cup tie against Rotherham. The Baggies have scored 5 in their first 2 league games of the new campaign, so there'll be plenty to look out for Newcastle, who conceded 2 against Liverpool on Sunday. Matthias Jaisler makes 6 changes from the game at the weekend. Johan, Ramsey, Murphy, Willock, Toure and Voltemade all come into the side in place of Hornacek, Miley, Elanga, Wissa, Barnes and Asula. James Morrison also makes 6 changes of his own from the Burnley win. O'Leary, Galvez, Phillips, Styles, Malumbi and Meyer all miss out, with Ingram, Townsend, Mepham, Williams, Nzagula and Stewart all starting ahead of them. So for Newcastle, it's Ewan Zhaoen in goal, a back four of Hall, Botman, Chow and Dedic, midfield 2 of Ramsey and Sturr, with Toure, Willock and Murphy supporting Voltemade through the middle. As for West Brom's Ingram in goal, a back four of Williams, Mepham, Campbell and Townsend, midfield 4 of Whitwell, Nzagula, Diakite and Price, with Stewart and Morgan making up the front 2. Newcastle United host West Brom at St James's Park in the second round of the EFL Cup at 7:45 this evening. The Magpies have reached the semi-finals of this competition in 3 of the last 4 seasons and lifted the trophy back in the 24-25 campaign. Under new manager Matthias Jaisler, Newcastle got their Premier League campaign off to a strong start, drawing 2-2 with Liverpool last time out. It could have been even better, however, had Lewis Hall not conceded an injury time penalty, but there were plenty of positives to take for Magpies fans. Their opponents tonight, West Brom, have enjoyed a similarly impressive start to the new season, having won each of their 2 openers in the Championship against Norwich and Burnley, as well as their first round EFL Cup tie against Rotherham. The Baggies have scored 5 in their first 2 league games of the new campaign, so there'll be plenty to look out for Newcastle, who conceded 2 against Liverpool on Sunday. Matthias Jaisler makes 6 changes from the game at the weekend. Johan, Ramsey, Murphy, Willock, Toure and Voltemade all come into the side in place of Hornacek, Miley, Elanga, Wissa, Barnes and Asula. James Morrison also makes 6 changes of his own from the Burnley win. O'Leary, Galvez, Phillips, Styles, Malumbi and Meyer all miss out, with Ingram, Townsend, Mepham, Williams, Nzagula and Stewart all starting ahead of them. So for Newcastle, it's Ewan Zhaoen in goal, a back four of Hall, Botman, Chow and Dedic, midfield 2 of Ramsey and Sturr, with Toure, Willock and Murphy supporting Voltemade through the middle. As for West Brom's Ingram in goal, a back four of Williams, Mepham, Campbell and Townsend, midfield 4 of Whitwell, Nzagula, Diakite and Price, with Stewart and Morgan making up the front 2. Newcastle United host West Brom at St James's Park in the second round of the EFL Cup at 7:45 this evening. The Magpies have reached the semi-finals of this competition in 3 of the last 4 seasons and lifted the trophy back in the 24-25 campaign. Under new manager Matthias Jaisler, Newcastle got their Premier League campaign off to a strong start, drawing 2-2 with Liverpool last time out. It could have been even better, however, had Lewis Hall not conceded an injury time penalty, but there were plenty of positives to take for Magpies fans. Their opponents tonight, West Brom, have enjoyed a similarly impressive start to the new season, having won each of their 2 openers in the Championship against Norwich and Burnley, as well as their first round EFL Cup tie against Rotherham. The Baggies have scored 5 in their first 2 league games of the new campaign, so there'll be plenty to look out for Newcastle, who conceded 2 against Liverpool on Sunday. Matthias Jaisler makes 6 changes from the game at the weekend. Johan, Ramsey, Murphy, Willock, Toure and Voltemade all come into the side in place of Hornacek, Miley, Elanga, Wissa, Barnes and Asula. James Morrison also makes 6 changes of his own from the Burnley win. O'Leary, Galvez, Phillips, Styles, Malumbi and Meyer all miss out, with Ingram, Townsend, Mepham, Williams, Nzagula and Stewart all starting ahead of them. So for Newcastle, it's Ewan Zhaoen in goal, a back 4 of Hall, Botman, Chow and Dedic, midfield 2 of Ramsey and Sturr, with Toure, Willock and Murphy supporting Voltemade through the middle. As for West Brom's Ingram in goal, a back 4 of Williams, Mepham, Campbell and Townsend, midfield 4 of Whitwell, Nzagula, Diakite and Price, with Stewart and Morgan making up the front 2. Newcastle United host West Brom at St James's Park in the second round of the EFL Cup at 7:45 this evening. The Magpies have reached the semi-finals of this competition in 3 of the last 4 seasons and lifted the trophy back in the 24-25 campaign. Under new manager Matthias Jaisler, Newcastle got their Premier League campaign off to a strong start, drawing 2-2 with Liverpool last time out. It could have been even better, however, had Lewis Hall not conceded an injury time penalty, but there were plenty of positives to take for Magpies fans. Their opponents tonight, West Brom, have enjoyed a similarly impressive start to the new season, having won each of their 2 openers in the Championship against Norwich and Burnley, as well as their first round EFL Cup tie against Rotherham. The Baggies have scored 5 in their first 2 league games of the new campaign, so there'll be plenty to look out for Newcastle, who conceded 2 against Liverpool on Sunday. Matthias Jaisler makes 6 changes from the game at the weekend. Johan, Ramsey, Murphy, Willock, Toure and Voltemade all come into the side in place of Hornacek, Miley, Elanga, Wissa, Barnes and Asula. James Morrison also makes 6 changes of his own from the Burnley win. O'Leary, Galvez, Phillips, Styles, Malumbi and Meyer all miss out, with Ingram, Townsend, Mepham, Williams, Nzagula and Stewart all starting ahead of them. So for Newcastle, it's Ewan Zhaoen in goal.
And it's very warm welcome to this independent off-tube studio-based commentary of this EFL Cup second round tie at St James's Park between Newcastle United of the Premier League and West Bromwich Albion of the Championship. The 2 sides have just got underway in the northeast. It's myself, Luke Ashurst, alongside me, John Hogan, taking you through all the action of the 90 minutes. And I think, John, when you look at the fixtures that have been played over the course of this midweek and are still yet to be played this midweek, potentially this is the one of the better opportunities to get a real upset, with West Brom coming into this one in real fine form, having won all 3 of their openers in competitive football, started really brightly, and Newcastle still finding their feet, I'd say, just a little bit under Matthias Jaisler.
Yeah, I think a couple of things really. One is that we've both done West Brom this season, and we both then not only win, but seen them play really well. The style and swagger. I saw them play with the youngsters, Whitwell and Jimmy J. Morgan, who were playing tonight, and they were great. So I ain't got a problem with those 2 young fellas. So yes, they can, and absolutely they can. For Newcastle, it's like we don't really know what we're looking at just yet. There's still a lot of good, seasoned, savvy pros in there. They've thrown in a few. I don't know about Toure, but he's only 20, but he's a full international. Here they come round the back, and an opportunity nearly deflected in then. And so a bright start for Newcastle and Joe Willock. So it's difficult to assess this. And then the other thing you just said to me was really interesting, is that Newcastle unveiled a signing just before kick-off, which is big news.
Yeah, it certainly is. Nico Gonzalez, the former Manchester City midfielder, announced just before kick-off as a Magpies player. Huge boost to their midfield. After at the weekend, it was Sean Sturr who starts tonight alongside Lewis Miley. On this occasion, though, it's Jacob Ramsey who gets the start ahead of the young Dutchman. Ramsey coming into the side, one of 6 changes made by Matthias Jaisler coming into this one. 6 changes as well made by James Morrison. I'll run you through those changes and the lineups in full in a moment or so, once the first corner of the evening is taken by Lewis Hall, another one of those players who keeps their spot from the weekend's draw against Liverpool. Left-footed in-swinger from the far side is towards the back post, where I think, to be honest, Sean Sturr would have been waiting had he not been flattened, but referee Robert Madley waves play on, and in fact it's going to be another corner on this near side after Connor Townsend put it out of play. So a bright start for Newcastle inside the opening 3 minutes, Doesn't look as though Lewis Hall's going to take this one. In fact, I think this is going to be a ball whipped in by Jacob Murphy, and indeed it is. Came off the bench on Sunday against Liverpool. Not to much avail, though, it has to be said. The former Norwich City man, as Murphy gets ready to swing in his right-footed in swinger from the left-hand side. Once again, they target the back post of Newcastle. Botman will head it back towards the 6-yard box. This should be cleared, though, in the end by Whitwell, and indeed it is. Away from danger and to be gathered by Ewan Zhauen, who is one of the 6 changes made by Matthias Scheisse, as I mentioned earlier on. So it's Zhauen, Ramsey, Murphy, Willock, Torre and Voltemade all into the side in place of Hornacek, Miley, Elanga, Wissa, Barnes and Asula. For James Morrison, he leaves out O'Leary, Galvez, Phillips, Styles, Malumbi and Meyer, with Ingram, Townsend, Mepham, Williams, Nzigula and Stewart all starting ahead of those 6. There's a few debuts being handed out this evening that I'll bring you in a second, because here come Newcastle on the counter-attack once again. Voltemade, edge of the penalty, a lovely forward from him. Willock with a chance to open the scoring. Good block in the end from George Campbell, and a decent clearance as well that almost sets free Stewart running forward, but he's challenged well in the end by Malik Chow, and Sean Sturr will gather along the back 4 to get Newcastle back into possession. So Ewan Zhauen and Ivorian Bazumana Torre make their debuts for Newcastle this evening. There's also a first start for Rabi Nzingula, who came off the bench against Burnley. Also came off the bench as well against Norwich, but makes his first start for the Baggies this evening. So a big night for those 3, John, but it's Newcastle that have started well in the opening fixture. I'll break off, because here come Newcastle again driving forward. Dedic this time challenged well by Nzingula in the midfield. And again, West Brom will try and come forward, but is that going to be a free kick after the challenge from Dedic? Yes, it will. Really, really bright start from the Magpies.
Yeah, there was great feet there from Voltemade, wasn't there? Just getting out of his feet and finding the Willock, who then flicked at it with the outstep of his right boot. He's in the inside left position, needed to find a left foot finish. He couldn't. Yeah, I would strongly fancy West Brom, but Newcastle have got good players, and it's whether they can find each other. It's whether their system works for them tonight or not. You know, sometimes players are going to make it work no matter what, and they're at home, and they were always well supported. Newcastle got a terrible, I think, shirt this season. So fussy bobs, isn't it? With all the from a way back, you can't really tell. As soon as you close in on it, terrible.
The blue, isn't it, that just looks awkward.
Yeah. It was impressive, wasn't it, at the start of the season? You know, for Kevin Keegan, and you know, the way that the stadium looked was superb, and Liverpool fans played their part. This is something else, but again, they're such a well-supported team. Look at the stands; they're just about full. So you know that they're going to be urged on. You know, and of course, they don't have to think too long back, do they, for cup success? So you know, start for such a long time. Their beaks have been wetted, haven't they? And maybe they can get something going tonight. Yeah,
maybe they can. Here's Willock again on the edge of the penalty area. Cuts in his left boot straight towards goal. Just wide of the post there of Matt Ingram. Willock letting fire in his left boot, and it's not a million miles away, I don't think. And Ingram was left rooted to the spot. West Brom just struggling to deal with those clipped balls in between defence and midfield. And Willock really enjoying himself at the start of this one. I tell you what, that's really close to finding the back of the net, inches away, and he can consider himself a little bit unfortunate there, Joe Willock.
I think so, but equally I think he just about, that little drag from his right foot onto his left foot was unexpected, because we've just seen him fluff one with the outside of his right boot. So what I'd be saying there is that I think he stood the keeper up enough that he can almost pass that into the back of the net. He didn't need to go with the power that he did. And imparting that power, that ball was just never going to bend back in. But he's had his spells of scoring, and then he goes through big droughts, doesn't he? But at times they've asked him to keep a shape. He's really a second striker, I think. So he's in his prime position tonight. This should suit him down to the ground.
Yeah, and he came off the bench to score a brilliant goal against Liverpool on Sunday. So rewarded with the start this evening, despite heavy rumours earlier on in the transfer window that he was going to depart St James's Park. He's started the season off brightly. He is now linking up with Jacob Ramsey, the former Aston Villa man. Moves it over onto the far side for Malik Chow, who once again continues with the captain's armband this evening in the absence of Dan Byrne. Torre now down the near side, looking to try and create the space, but he's held up well by Whitwell. To the midfield now with Stur. An impressive debut on Sunday. Nice ball to feed Ramsey. Ramsey into Voltemada, quickly round the corner for Dedic. He fancies a run here at Townsend, does the Bosnian. Cuts the ball back now to Miley, to Ramsey, I should say, sorry. Decent ball towards the back post, not properly dealt with, and then the strike comes in from Lewis Hall. And that's straight into the hands of Matt Ingram. He'll be desperate for a bit of redemption this evening, Lewis Hall, after the late penalty he conceded at the weekend. Thought he was absolutely fantastic against Liverpool last time out, up until that final attack for the Reds where he brought down Victor Munoz inside the penalty area. Dominic Szoboszlai making no mistake from the spot. And that's going to be a free kick over on the far side. A little bit too eager there, Jacob Murphy, to take the ball off of Jimmy J. Morgan. And that'll be a free kick for the visitors and a chance for West Brom just to settle into possession a little bit. It's got shades slightly to the game I covered last night, John, where Sheffield Wednesday up against Wolves just could not get the ball for the first 15 minutes against opposition from the division above. I mean, you'd argue there's slightly less of a gap between these two given how strong West Brom have started the season and how often we see championship sides run Premier League sides close. But, I mean, this is the first, 30-second spot where they've actually kept a hold of the ball.
I think we've both seen Albion and we both thought they played well this season, and they have. But there's a chasm, I'm looking at all that young talent they've got as well. Down the right-hand side for Albion, a 21-year-old in Williams, a 20-year-old in Whitwell, and then if Barney Stewart's the end ball, he's 22. And I'm thinking, it just seems a bit fanciful. But here they come, Albion. First opportunity for them. Can they get something going? It just all stops there. A bit of a clunky pass to Whitwell. He couldn't take it with him. So they could be great, or it could be a bridge too far. What we see with the young players is they can be great, and then next time around be really poor. So consistency is key, isn't it? And it's difficult. So many youngsters in the team, even if they've made a great start of the season, which they have, asking a lot tonight. Yeah,
it certainly is. Newcastle asking a lot of themselves. They try and play out from the back with the squeeze being put on by Nzingula. And then Diakite's won the ball back brilliantly off of Willock and will feed Whitwell down the near side. He skipped away from Lewis Hall well. Whitwell in onto the edge of the penalty area for Jimmy J. Morgan. He's held up well by Willock, but Morgan does well to keep hold of the ball. Diakite now floats the ball in towards the back post. Not a terrible delivery. And in fact, Dedic is headed clear and out for a corner because Isaac Price was lurking at the back post. Really good move that from West Bromwich Albion. They actually said, you know what, you're not going to play out from the back against us. Put the squeeze on. Recycled the ball on a couple of occasions really quite well. And they've won a corner in the end. Really impressive play, particularly from Ousmane Diakite, who was superb at the weekend. Trying to find Isaac Price, who picked up a brace against Burnley. It'll be Whitwell, though, to swing this corner in from the far side. Headed back across goal by Mepham. Morgan was there chancing for it. It's back towards Mepham, who will head towards Barney Stewart. It'll be headed away, though, initially by Chow. Gathered, though, by Connor Townsend, 50 yards away from goal. Whitwell will gather again over on the far side. It's a flat ball in towards the penalty area, which Chow will clear. Only as far, though, onto this near side for young defender Alex Williams, who will quickly take this throw back into the midfield, and eventually the ball will end up all the way back at the feet of Chris Mepham. Takes his time over it, the former Bournemouth and Sunderland man, before moving it into midfield for Isaac Price, who, as we so often see, loves to tuck narrow to get involved in play. Price will then spread it over onto the far side for Townsend, who fancied a bit of a run there at Murphy, but then thought better of properly having a go at him, and instead we'll just move it back towards halfway. Mepham now into Diakite, back to his captain Campbell, and now over onto the left-hand side for Price once more. Price, quick 1-2 between himself and Morgan. Price with the right-footed effort from the edge of the box. Blocked well. Williams will keep it moving. Flick on there from Stewart, looking back towards Williams. But that's just going to bound out of play for a goal kick. Really, really good spell that for West Brom.
Yeah, again, enthusiasm in there. And we'll talk about that because I would say that you look at this Albion team and there'll be stats and all that, and it may not be the youngest team on average they've ever fielded in this competition, but it might be. They've got so much young talent. Nzingula is only 20. Next to Whitwell, who's 20, Stewart 22, Williams 21, Jimmy J. Morgan, He's already scored this season. He's just 21 as well. So, yeah, there's all that. It's exciting. And now they get another ball a little bit more. They're doing all right, and they've got an opportunity here. Jimmy J. Morgan's in the clear, inside the box. A chance for him. He cuts, he shoots, and it's blocked away. He had the overlap there, and maybe he should have used Connor Townsend.
Yeah, maybe he should have done, but Newcastle were carved open by some brilliant Baggies football in the midfield. George Campbell's done well to hold the ball off of Nick Voltemade, who I think with frustration just hauled down the American, and that's going to be a free kick for West Brom.
It should be a card.
That should be a card, you're right.
I mean, Robert Madley saw what we saw. There's no attempt to play the ball. He just hauls him down. You can't do that. You know, maybe that's the first real offence, but Voltemade there getting away with one. Maybe because he's playing at home, but the poor ball there from Albion, trying to thread the needle to, I think, find Isaac Price. Diakite didn't work out, but Albion are finding their feet. They couldn't get hold of the ball the first 8 minutes, could they? But they're doing a lot better.
They certainly are. Two other games, I should say, being played in the EFL Cup that kicked off at 7:45 along with ours. It's currently still Bradford City 0, Burnley 0. And it's also still Tottenham 0, Charlton 0. Another game available on this service, by the way, is Rapid Vienna of Austria against Hearts in Europa Conference League qualification. Hearts scored late on to send it to extra time, despite being down to 10. They've now scored in extra time, and they are currently, as things stand, going through to the Conference League group phase, having scored in the extra half hour. That game available on this service in case you wanted to keep up with it. Mine and John's focus will remain on this game at St James's Park, where just under 15 minutes gone, independent off-tube studio-based commentary. Newcastle United 0, West Bromwich Albion 0. Newcastle were just under a spell of pressure for a moment or so, with West Brom stepping up the tempo, but Basimane Toure has just won his side a corner down the other end of the field on the near side. So an opportunity for Newcastle to try and cause issues inside the West Brom penalty area. Again, it'll be an in-swinger from Jacob Murphy down the Newcastle left. Floats his right-footed ball in again towards the back post. Relatively easily dealt with by a combination of George Campbell and Chris Mepham. Although having said that, Campbell won't keep it in over on the far side. And that's going to be Newcastle United throw. Maybe a little bit of miscommunication there between Campbell and Mepham. It's been Campbell and Phillips at centre-half to start off the season for West Brom, and it's been a pretty decent start defensively for the Baggies. Only conceded 3 in their opening 3 competitive fixtures coming into this one. But Mepham gets the nod this evening ahead of Nat Phillips. And Campbell, the skipper, does continue at centre-half, where I've been very, very impressed with him this season. Spent a lot of last season at full-back, where I just didn't quite think he had the pace to cope with a lot of championship wingers, but at centre-half looks a different player. So when taken short over on the far side there by Dedic, it'll be moved back across to the near side, where Lewis Hall will get a couple of touches. Now back with Sven Botman. Square to Sean Sturr, who loves dropping in between the two centre-halves just to get a touch of the ball, as Chow tries to play a ball forward to Willock. That's been intercepted well by Diakite. Townsend then will play a firm ball forward to Morgan, who holds it up nicely. He's then been caught from behind by Malik Chow, and that's going to be a free kick once again for West Brom. And they've done pretty well. Actually, I'd say in the last 5 minutes or so, whenever they get a touch of the ball, if they can't move the ball forward, doing well just to win the free kick and keep a hold of possession, as Matt Ingram now has the ball played back to him just inside his own box. Square to Mepham, under a bit of pressure from Voltemade, will play forward into Williams. Williams now all the way back to Ingram again. It seems to be that the trigger is once the ball comes away from the goalkeeper, Newcastle put the squeeze on. But while the ball is at the feet of West Brom's 32-year-old second-choice shot stopper, they take the time over it. Diakite quickly round the corner to Mepham once more after that vertical ball forward. Williams now tries to turn away from Toure. Will play a ball into Barney Stewart, who thought he'd held it up well and thought maybe he'd been fouled from behind, but no, just a loose touch, sees it out of play for a throw-in.
Yeah, he had a good season last season, Barney Stewart at Falkirk. Scored a good few goals again, prizing him away. In times gone by, either of Rangers or Celtic would have had to play like Barney Stewart. But spirited away to West Brom. And he was born in London anyway, Barney Stewart. So I don't think he'd be like a fish out of water or anything. To really get a kick here tonight, but they've seen a fair amount of the ball from a really slow start as Price tries to dribble his way through. They're now to about 48% possession, which is quite surprising at the possession stats, and here they are again.
Morgan surely caught there by Sean Sturr. Yeah, the referee will blow for the free kick. Probably should be a yellow card against the former Ajax-man, and indeed it is. First yellow card handed out by Robert Madley goes the way of the Dutch 18-year-old, who hasn't really been involved in forward play so far this evening, but poor bit of defensive work there as he's caught Jimmy J. Morgan after the ball has gone. And so that'll be a yellow card for Sean Sturr. And a decent free kick opportunity this for West Brom as well. Not entirely sure it's within shooting distance, but it's certainly a decent angle to whip a ball in. It looks as though Connor Townsend, one of the two standing over it, as Ewan Giant just organises his wall, getting everybody set before this free kick is swung in. They're not the tallest aside, West Brom, quite deceptively, particularly without Nat Phillips in the side, but they've still got some relatively tall options in there in George Campbell, Chris Mepham and Ousmane Diakite. Isaac Price also standing over it. We know how dangerous he can be from a free kick position, but I get the feeling it's going to be Connor Townsend to float this one in. I'd argue it suits the right footer, but Isaac Price almost looks like he's going to run up to this one as if he's going to hit it, which to me wouldn't be the option. Referee Robert Madley, I thought had just blown his whistle. He has indeed blown his whistle, and he is going to shoot. Oh, what a goal! Isaac Price has given West Brom the lead. I thought there's no way he's going to hit it from there, but he's caught Joanne off on debut. And it's a brilliant effort from Isaac Price, who comes into this one in fine form, and he continues from his brace of the weekend to give West Brom a shock lead at St James's Park. The Magpies are stunned, but it's James Morrison's Baggies who have the lead, and it's a wonder goal from Isaac Price 20 minutes in.
Well, I'll tell you what he did there. He gave you the eyes, Luke. There was no way he was going to hit that, according to you. And then and I thought, well, that's a good disguise. He's not, is he? He doesn't run up to it with any venom. He spins it round the corner. He does that important thing. Ball starts outside the goal frame. It bounces in front of the keeper. That changes the angle for it. And the keeper comes across it, but the Frenchman just can't get there. I'm such a big fan of Isaac Price. Yeah. And he's got, because we do a lot of the internationals, and I just get lumped with Northern Ireland.
You say that's a bad thing. I love watching a bit of Northern Ireland.
Yeah, I'm kidding, because I do too, and I've got a lot of respect for them, and certainly I've got a lot of respect for him. I think he's been messed about at Albion. Has to play different positions that don't suit him at times. Sometimes you've got to keep a shape. They were playing him as a right wing back at times last season, and you think, well, he ain't that, but that's what he is. He's so creative. He's so good on the ball. You want him almost a free roll if you can. But there, it was like, read the room. Who's going to do what? I just thought, it's a sneaky chance he's going to hit it. But honestly, he gave everybody the eyes. And what a hit that was. Yeah,
nightmare for Ewan Giant on debut. Only 20 years of age, the goalkeeper. And it's a nightmare start to his Newcastle United debut. He'll be hoping his outfield players can drag his side back into this game. Although in the last 15 minutes or so, they've looked relatively shaky. Voltemar has given the ball away. Again, it's not a foul from Zingula. That's really unfortunate there for the young Frenchman, because it looked like he'd taken the ball brilliantly off of Nick Voltemar. But Robert Madley disagreeing with myself and John and giving the free kick the way of the home side. And I get the feeling, if that's the other way around, and if that's a Newcastle player on a West Brom player at St James's Park, that's not being given as a free kick.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's not bad sportsmanship, just nick it on the blind side of him, is it? He fell asleep. I'm a big fan of Voltemar as well, but he fell asleep there. He lost the ball initially, and then he thinks, look at me, I've won it back. And then he has it nicked away, and I didn't think there was anything wrong with that. And it was the other side of Madley anyway, who was playing a guessing game whether he thought that was a foul or not. Maybe the reaction of the crowd got the free kick there. Anyway, Albion trying to play their way out. They've got a goal cushion tonight. We thought they could play well, and then the first 8 minutes we were just thinking, this might be a bit too much. But they've got a good start, and anything possible for them. So, they're playing well. Price has got his goal. Can they hang on in there? I think that from what we saw from Newcastle early, there's definitely a goal or two in the Magpies, though.
Yeah, there certainly is. I get the feeling there might be some more in it for West Brom as well. They've just made a bit of hay down the far side, although Isaac Price has been forced to go back to Connor Townsend. Get the ball moving once more. I don't know what you think, John. Shades of, I don't know if you remember Joe Bryan's goal in the playoff final at Fulham Brentford during that COVID season. up against David Raya, where I mean, he's a bit further out than Isaac Price was this evening, but completely catches David Raya off guard from a free kick and fires in at the near post.
I was maintained that you know, he wasn't good enough to play at the level he played at, but he could surprise you the odd time, and I think that was the only time personally. But yeah, shades of that really. But you could see there's two options. Be prepared for both of them, you know. Yeah. He caught him out, didn't he, really? But the keeper's got to be more aware, I think.
Campbell driving forward now for West Brom. That's a loose pass over onto the far side looking towards Townsend, but he's done brilliantly well. There's Connor Townsend to nip in ahead of Jacob Murphy and keep the Baggies in possession. Here it is now with Zingula looking for options just to keep the ball moving. Back to Campbell, square to Mepham. One of the later games of the late game in the EFL Cup has now just kicked off, by the way, 10 minutes in. It's Preston 0, Everton. Preston played, I believe, their first round tie in the EFL Cup at Goodison Park. So a little bit of recent history between those two. So I'm sure that's going to be an interesting one. Of course, David Moyes' former side. We used to play at Preston before becoming a manager at Everton. So a little bit of a connection between those two. That game also available on this service this evening. But we're a quarter of the way through our game. Independent off-tube studio-based commentary. Newcastle United 0, West Bromwich Albion 1. Isaac Price, the difference between the two sides at the moment. And to take us through to the end of the first 45, I'll hand it over to John.
Yeah, I'm surprised and then not surprised all at the same time. I'm surprised because the start Newcastle made, I just thought, well, there is a chasm and all these youngsters and blah, blah, blah. But do you know what? They've actually played quite well because possession stats I've got them still at 48%. And away to a Premier League club, that's brilliant. Just a toe in there from Stewart, but he did catch Botman and he'd gone down. So that'll take a little bit of time off. We also saw there James Morrison. Somebody played the wrong ball. He's absolutely on it. What I like about that, that's sort of out of the Pep Guardiola book. Nothing goes astray. It's not one ball that he doesn't know when somebody's made a mess, because he was a decent footballer. Anyway, here an opportunity for Newcastle. They're building up, and then ball goes back for Ramsey. A chance to put a cross in from the right-hand side with Jacob Murphy. He drives, and eventually the ball blocked away at the expense of a corner. So I'm buying tickets for James Morrison at the minute. He could end up being a great coach, couldn't he? And I think he's made a good start. I think there are huge signs of the intelligence that you used to see in his play, and that's brought to bear with the squad that he's got. A small squad for Albion, but good players. Corner kick for Newcastle, ball comes in, nodded away though at the near post, and they have to do a little bit better than that. Whitwell did his job there, but it wasn't a good ball in. Anyway, just looking at Morgan there, and Murphy went down very soft, didn't he? But as soon as he feels that arm on his shoulder, you know what he's going to do. That's a Premier League foul, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is. I mean, he'll know quite a bit about sort of like those Premier League fouls, Jimmy J. Morgan. He's only 20 years of age, but spent a lot of time at Chelsea in their academy before finally making the permanent move to West Bromwich Albion. Showing a little bit of immaturity so far in his early West Brom career, as he did there, as the ball is swung in towards the back post. That's going to be comfortably saved in the end by Ingram after the second ball in from Willock. Yeah, showing a little bit of immaturity so far at West Brom has Jimmy J. Morgan, but he's also shown an awful lot of quality, and I know there's a lot of West Brom fans that think very, very highly of him, and rightly so.
Yeah, I think he's set for a good career, isn't he? It looks like that anyway. And Albion, having been in the doldrums for how long? Ages, seemingly. They were that team that used to draw with everybody a couple of seasons ago, weren't they? And it was something like 20-odd draws. Anyway, look different gravy today. Lewis Hall on the ball. And Newcastle, in front of a big crowd, have got to get something going. Little slalom then from Stewart. He picked up a yellow card already. Burst through with young Ajax, and with the competition at young Ajax, it's so difficult to do. But weirdly, the other thought is then he breaks into the full Ajax team at a time when probably they're at their lowest depth for a century, so difficult to know what to make of that. Anyway, you did do that. Here come Albion now down the right hand side. Opportunity for them. Little ball touched on for Williams. The Welshman just goes back to Mepham and then into midfield for Diakite. Stabbed out of his feet. Price just happy to go back. Rolls it back to Campbell and out to left for Townsend. Price the ball back, allows Voltemada to close in. Ball all the way back to Ingram. Keeping hold of the ball and seemingly not being flustered. There's a lovely little tickle around the corner there from Inzagula. And now a drive is on down left hand side. The ball with Connor Townsend. Price now. Is he going to strike? I thought maybe if he had enough time. Gets the ball out of his feet then for Whitwell. Nice build up, very patient from West Bromwich Albion. Drop of the shoulder. Just thought Diakite was going to go down that left hand side, and now he just pops the ball back. Happy in possession. Eventually a long ball into the box. They've got numbers in there. First header is won by Stewart. He can't promote it to anywhere. I don't know if that was a shot that just came in from Inzagula, but it was deflected. And now a bit of head tennis. The ball up in the air before Toure is able to head away. We haven't seen enough from this young Ivory Coast player, who 9 caps by the way, and a couple of goals at international level. He's only 20, but clearly he's got something about him. Ball through the middle is an absolute beauty here. Come Albion again, a shot on the half turn, but Jimmy J Morgan can't make it stick this time. It was lovely pass to him. It was a great control and turn. The shot didn't live with the build-up, did it? It's a lovely ball from Mepham.
Yeah, it's really, really good football again from West Brom. As you said, lovely ball from Chris Mepham, and finish not quite there from Jimmy J Morgan, but they just, after that opening 8 minutes, Newcastle, they just don't look settled. I mean, nobody's really keeping a hold of the ball, but yet it's not a case of they're not keeping a hold of the ball because they're trying too much. They're just constantly losing it in really poor scenarios. Yeah, really baffled by Jacob Murphy so far this evening. Really baffled by Jacob Ramsey as well. I think they've both been pretty poor so far. How's that not a foul in midfield there? Given by Robert Madley. And now here come Newcastle on the attack.
Yeah, well, he seems to be only giving fouls one way, albeit that Story couldn't ignore for the yellow card, having chopped Jimmy J Morgan down. But I never quite know what to make of Jacob Murphy. I know he's a good player in there somewhere, but he's so inconsistent, really. But when he's hot, he's really hot, I guess. That's the thing. He just guilty of giving the ball away, but they win it back. Now Stewart on the ball to Botman. Always been a good passer of the ball with Lewis Hall. And there's a lot of conjecture about whether he's going to go to the World Cup. I didn't think he was ready. Saw him getting beaten to a pulp by Savinho, who hardly got a look in last year, but here come Newcastle. Voltemada looking for that little blind turn around the corner. I'm a big fan of Voltemada, but for me, he's not a striker. He's like a second striker or sort of number 10. He's like a hybrid, really. I don't think he leads the line particularly well. Do
you want to know why I think there's too many players who are like that, who they don't really have a position. They're sort of a 10, sort of a 9, or I'm sort of a winger, sort of an attacking midfielder. Gone are the days where players just used to play where they were put and get on with it, and it's the system doesn't quite fit me. Football's a simple game. Nothing has changed really in sort of how it's played in 30 years. Players have just gotten picky. You look at the best teams that we've seen in the Premier League in the last sort of 10 years, Guardiola's City and Klopp's Liverpool. They didn't have any of this sort of half position on break-off chance. If Toure with his strike inside the penalty area doesn't quite catch it well enough. Newcastle's number 17, it's straight through to the hands of Matt Ingram. But you didn't have Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool. You didn't have Salah and Mane going on. We actually would rather play more centrally. No, they played out wide and they cut inside. Guardiola's City, you had Foden plays in the 10. Haaland or Aguero plays through the middle. You've got full-backs that maybe sometimes took narrow, but they were still full-backs. None of this sort of, I don't actually know where my position is. And I think too many players are getting away with actually not offering anywhere near enough because they can say, well, I'm not actually a striker. I don't think you can be 6'5" or however tall Nick Voltemada is and not be able to offer anything inside the penalty area.
Yeah, he didn't offer nothing, does he? As the ball comes in, he's going to do stuff, but that wasn't a good ball to him necessarily. So I completely agree with what you're saying, and maybe it's just because they're not quite good enough players, but maybe it's just because he's German. Because like Florian Wirtz, he doesn't seem to be living up to his billing. I could put Kai Havertz in that group as well. And
but Kai Havertz is scoring goals now, though. All of a sudden for Arsenal,
and he scored in the Champions League final, so even his failure is a success. So I'm careful what I say, but I'm a big fan of Automatica. I think he's a good footballer. And when I saw him playing for Germany, I thought, wow, they've got something. But he kept picking the ball up deep and running with it. He's got good feet, and I just wonder whether centre forward is his bag really. But he's that big, it's like, oh, we'll put him there. But that's a bit like putting Fellaini as a defensive midfielder because he looks like it. Do you know what I mean? When he was full of goals. Scott McTominay, another one. Oh, he's a defensive screen because he's big and he can get himself around. Well, no, he's a second striker, at which he then goes to prove. So getting players in the right position, I think, is key. Don't forget Thierry Henry was once a full-back. That's a poor ball then from the youngster. And Bazumana Toure, just a bit more work to do. It's like a blind ball that you find when you reach the heady heights of Premier League football, you cannot play percentage football anymore. It doesn't work. You're not going to get the gig. You're not going to be playing regularly if you do that. So he has to think again. Albion play their way out from the back. Mepham just decides to launch a percentage ball, which is good enough to Stewart, trying to hold it up. But he was well shackled there by Sven Botman, who'd done a decent job. 35 minutes on the clock. Newcastle 0, West Bromwich Albion 1. Surprise free kick from Isaac Price. Are you looking? Well, Luke thought the ball was going to swing into the box, but instead, we thought would be the man running over the ball, and I thought too. Isaac Price instead just clipped it, ran up, hit it. He didn't get a tremendous amount of power, but it was precise. He put it exactly where he wanted it, which was in the back of the net. Keeper got a faintest of touches, but he couldn't stop it. And here, Price again looking for a little dribble. It doesn't really work out. I like it when he's playing second striker. There's not too many players who you trust to be like a Thomas Muller ghosting into the box or picking things up that you could just leave to his own devices. I think some players you've got to do that. The others then have got to sort of fit in around Isaac Price, I think. Nominally, I had him. I think he was supposed to be left wing today, but he's not. He's everywhere. Here come Newcastle now, just the edge of the area. Little dribble, and it's still going. But eventually, Willock runs out of racing room. Good feet for a while, but it got really tight there, running into a congested area between him and Toure. Ball shepherded now back to Jowan, who's had very little to do apart from pick the ball out in the net. And Newcastle just try to find their way, but Newcastle look like what they are, which is a sum of the parts.
Yep.
Some good players. They know what the system, but it still lacks cohesion.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, that perfect example there, Sean Sturr trying to lay the ball off to Jacob Ramsey, had no idea the ball was coming. I think there's been a little bit too much of that so far this evening. They almost sort of look a man or two short, whether that be an extra man in midfield or an extra man further forward. It's just not quite clicking at the moment. And I do feel for a couple of players in there, because there are a few players that were bought for an awful lot of money. I couldn't believe when I saw that Bazumana Toure had cost them €50 million. I mean, that's an awful lot of money for a player who I think I saw earlier on that scored 3 goals last season in the Bundesliga. I know he's played at just 20 years of age a number of times for his nation, but it's an awful lot of money for a youngster to come in and try and live up to. As the ball comes in towards Voldemada, headed away well by Campbell.
Yeah, he did well. And Price wins the ball, and he would just give a chance for his young striker to chase after it, but the ball will be put out by Botman, so it will be a throw for for Albion, the Throssels, against the Magpies tonight. So yeah, the home crowd, maybe he'll have to be patient. Matthias Gestel, I wonder how much time he's going to get. It was a good point for them at the opener. I thought it was probably a good time to play Liverpool as well, who haven't really settled down. You know, it'd be interesting to see how the Reds go this season as well. And it could be a difficult season for both the two teams. But yeah, a draw. I think you know, in the scheme of things for Newcastle fans, they say, okay, well, we need to see more. But Jessel's not going to get an awful long time. is Ramsey at the edge of the box. Little mazy dribble, ball goes out right for Murphy. He's going to try and get it onto his boot for a strike. Dedic though lost the ball before that, and then Willock couldn't get it. Ball picked back up by Newcastle. Camera lingers on Amar Dedic, the Bosnian international. 31 caps for him. And now an opportunity for Newcastle down the right hand side. Early cross comes in, and it's put in the back of the net, and there is Toure, who, well, he may have been bought for too much money, but he's desperate to pay that back, and just a little chunk of change there went in the back of the net with that easy tap in.
Yeah, credit where credit's due to Basim Toure. He's done brilliantly well to get into a dangerous area there. That's probably where you want your striker lurking, but if it's not going to be your striker, one of your wingers making a late dart into that corridor of uncertainty does just the job. I think a lot of credit has got to go to Amar Dedic, who didn't get too many plaudits on Sunday because Lewis Hall was arguably the better of the two fullbacks, but I was mightily impressed with the Bosnian on debut, and once again, he does brilliantly well on this occasion. A moment ago, he tried to play the ball down the line to Joe Willock, who didn't make the run, and on this occasion he goes, do you know what, I'll do it myself then. Runs towards the byline, swings in a brilliant ball into the box, and as I said, it's such a good run from Toure that he just has to get a touch on it and tap into the back of the net. I know it's against West Brom, thought we were going to get a bit more of a celebration from the Ivorian given it's a goal on debut, but hey, if that's the professionalism he's going to play with for his career for the rest of his time at Newcastle, I'm not sure too many Magpies fans will be complaining, but all of a sudden we've got much more of a game on our hands.
I tell you what I like about that. One is the ambition to be there. You know, so you see your right back bombing on, and you're the left winger, thinking, most would be thinking, well, maybe I run parallel to the post, and maybe if the perfect cross comes in, I can nod it in if I get the run on my fullback. And instead, he's bombing into the middle like a good striker, like a fox in the box player. That stands him in good stead, you know. And then he just the ball, as soon as he makes the contact's in the back of the net because he's about 2 yards away. But I like the ambition of being where he was, and he's running across, and he's almost blindsiding him. So yeah, I've got a lot of time for that. It's good stuff. Ball won the high up the field here. Willock now just trying to ease away, and he was brought down by Diakite, and that is an obvious free kick. So one apiece, and then Newcastle back into the game, getting their fans maybe a little bit excited about what there is. So yeah, it was a good ball from Dedic, and again, if on my sheet of paper Isaac Price down to play left hand side of midfield, well, he was beaten by Dedic, who couldn't to stop him getting that ball in. There's still a lot of work to do, and there's still three defenders in the middle who should have had eyes open, were caught ball watching. But that's the problem with having Price playing that roving position. It just left him too much to do when it broke down there.
Yeah, I think it did a little bit. I mean, on Sunday, I thought he defended brilliantly against Marcus Edwards for the majority of the game out wide. I thought he did an awful lot, but I suppose it's a difference, isn't it, between Premier League and Championship players, is, you know, he did really, really well up against Marcus Edwards. Up against Amar Dedic, the Premier League player, all of a sudden he looked an extra yard or two slower. And so I don't think he does a huge amount wrong positionally, Isaac Price. I just think he's got to anticipate the run, and he's got to shift a little bit quicker. You're right, his starting position a little bit narrow, but I think he gets across well. He's just got to anticipate that run from Dedic a little bit sooner. It is an awkward one, but you got to run with the rough when you rough and the smooth. It's easy for me to say, but you know, you get the best out of Isaac Price when he's tucking in narrow. You've also then got to deal with the fact that sometimes maybe you're a man short, and that's why. Maybe can you ask Connor Townsend to be a bit wider as that ball maybe comes in? I don't know. It's a tricky one.
It is a tricky one, and I think it's probably more a structural problem than a problem for the player himself. Asked to do too much there, and of course, but that's good play from Newcastle. So probably Jacob Murphy's taken Connor Townsend away just to make the gap. So all that is great for them if that's indeed what they did. A few goals coming in here and there, aren't they? And Tottenham have scored. Mikey Moore doesn't get a lot, does he? And you know, I think it's time he put his head down and had a good season. Another goal somewhere. Where was that?
No, it's Tierno Barry's given Everton the lead away from home at Deepdale.
Yeah, I always thought Everton might just have too many guns for P&E tonight. But in this game, we thought that Albion would give a good account of themselves, and they are. We're 43 minutes in, and it's one apiece. They grabbed a goal off a set piece, but they'd seen enough of the ball before that. There's 7 shots. Albion have just yielded the 1 on target, but what a goal from Isaac Price from a set piece. Newcastle have had 3 shots that have been on target now. Not that Matt Ingram's had much to do, and he certainly wasn't expected to save. There's a little break down the right-hand side. Williams gets the ball out with his feet. Whitwell into the box now. What's his cutback like? Not good enough. He's the long and short of that. Blocked away by the first man. He had loads in the box there to aim at. I thought the defending was okay, though. But he needed to lift the ball, and he didn't.
Yeah, he did. It's the one thing I haven't seen a huge amount from Harry Whitwell so far, and from what I've seen him, I think his positioning, he's fantastic for a player as young as he is. Shows real maturity and real sort of in-game nous, and he's also got a good finish on him. What he doesn't necessarily have is a great delivery into the penalty area, which is something I think James Morrison will want him to develop. Morrison, so far this season, has really enjoyed playing a front two, whether it be Jimmy J. Morgan and Barney Stewart, as we're seeing tonight, or whether it be Jimmy J. Morgan and Auna Hegbo. Either way, he likes a little man, big man combination, one to run in behind, one to offer a support inside the penalty area. So he's going to want Whitwell to develop a little bit of a cross on him as time goes on, just so that he can try and sort of bring someone like a Hegbo or a Stewart into the game.
Yeah, the ball driven across there, and an opportunity. Jimmy Morgan was brought down there as he went for the ball. Went for it, but he couldn't get it. It's a great ball in, then a terrible challenge out the flank. And, well, I think Toure could well get a card for that. Whitwell taken out, no uncertain terms. We'll take a look at the ball then. There wasn't a foul on Jimmy J. Morgan. He just threw himself at it. Keeper was a bit late on it, wasn't he? And it could have gone in, but it didn't. So that was a close run thing. The Albion bench just looking at their monitors. Was there anything there? Can we have a moan? Not really. Yeah, interesting stuff. I think for Whitwell, he's not a winger. He's another one of those. He's an inside right or left. He's holding a shape because he is another one who can strike from the edge of the area. I think this kid's got goals in him. So, yeah, you fold him into the system. Anyway, there is a free kick to be taken here for Albion. We've hit 45 minutes. I didn't see the board go up. Just a minute. Anyway, free kick comes in. Little ball flicked on, but in the end, it's just a little bit too deep. Stewart, who got the first little flick there, just getting too much on it, but that's what he had to do, win the first ball. Now Newcastle have a little breakout. I think this first half, one apiece suits it really. I think we've seen endeavour from both the two teams. You know, they're both kind of getting what they deserve, and I think it should be an interesting second half as well. Yeah,
absolutely. I think West Brom have given a brilliant account of themselves. I think there are some players for Newcastle who are obviously trying to impress the new manager, who have done well and have shown sparks, but ultimately then we need to see more from the Magpies, and well, from West Brom, they'll be hoping that they can just continue where they left off.
Yeah, absolutely. So all to play for, and you never know which way it's going. I'm assuming there's a bit more off the bench for Newcastle. About to find it anyway. We've reached half time, and it is one apiece.
Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. An equaliser, though, coming through Basumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1.
Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park as Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Basumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park as Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Basumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park as Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Basumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park as Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Basumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park as Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Basumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park as Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Basumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park as Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Basumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park as Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Basumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park as Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Basumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park as Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. And equalised though, coming through Basumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarwin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. An equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarwin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. An equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarwin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. An equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarwin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. An equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarwin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. An equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarwin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. An equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarwin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. An equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarwin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. An equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarwin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. An equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park is Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarwin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. An equalised though, coming through Bazumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian, and Newcastle level at half-time. At the interval, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. Half-time at St James's Park. It's Newcastle United 1, West Bromwich Albion 1. It was the Albion that took the lead inside 20 minutes through Isaac Price. A really clever free kick from the former Everton man, about 25 yards out. Everybody, including Ewan Jarlin, thought he was going to cross the ball in, but he caught the Frenchman out on debut at the near post and gave West Brom the lead. An equaliser, though, coming through Basumana Toure on debut. Lovely ball in from Dedic, tapped in by the Ivorian. And
it's a very warm welcome back to this independent off-tube studio-based commentary of this EFL Cup second round tie at St James's Park between Newcastle United and West Bromwich Albion. The two sides went in at half-time, level at 1 apiece thanks to an earlier goal from Isaac Price and then a strike just before half-time from Basumana Toure on debut to level things for Matthias Geisler's side. That debut goal, though, clearly wasn't enough to keep Basumana Toure on the pitch. He's been hooked at half-time. Harvey Barnes brought on in his place. No changes though in commentary, as it's still myself, Luke Ashurst, alongside me, John Hogan, to take you through all the remaining action. Well, John, there was plenty of it actually in that first half. West Brom kept, gave a really good account of themselves. Newcastle created their own chances, and hopefully more of the same in the second half.
Yeah, it was exciting, wasn't it? And we didn't quite know what was going to happen. Newcastle started brightly, rescinded. Albion got their goal, and then Newcastle fought back gamely, we thought, and of course the goal scorer's off now. Really, that was the only thing he did. I mean, credit where it's due. He made himself a centre forward and nipped one in. But I think Newcastle want to win this game, so they bring on one of the big guns. And Harvey Barnes at this level gets his opposition, should be. He was a talisman last season, kept scoring. Here he breaks through, and there's a great ball in. If he can get that through to Willock, it's a tap, and he couldn't quite manage it. It was good defended by Townend, but that is what Harvey Barnes brings to the pie.
Yeah, that was a great bit of skill. A lovely bit of movement initially to get in between Alex Williams and Chris Mepham, and then skip away from the Welsh international before sending that cross in. Really, really good play from Harvey Barnes. He started brightly in the second half. It is worth remembering, though, Newcastle did start brightly in that first 45 before West Brom grew into the game and arguably became the better of the two sides after 15 minutes. But an early corner for the Magpies could see them with an opportunity to go ahead in this one for the first time this evening. It'll be an in-swinger from Murphy over on the far side. Ball swung again towards the back post as most of them have gone. Oh, great save, Ingram. Brilliant header from Malik Chow at the back post. It's the first time anybody in black and white has gotten onto the end of one of these corners to the back post. And Chow's forced a brilliant save out of Ingram to keep it at 1-1.
Yeah, good football all the way around there. Look at Voldemar. He got two. He's like holding two to him, and that allows Tia to win his header. I didn't think it was a great corner because the ball spooned up in the air. Not a lot of pace on it, but he got a lot of pace snapping his neck and getting the header, and it was a good save.
Hall, corner along the floor. Strike will come in from distance from Barnes, scrambling around on the penalty, but Barnes is there to tap in. There's an early goal for Newcastle. It's from the substitute as well. Genius from Matthias Geisler. Newcastle back ahead for the first time in this one, and it's Harvey Barnes with the goal. Delight for the Magpies. They started this second half brilliantly and have got their reward. A lovely corner routine, which I don't think worked out exactly how they were hoping, but the result is the same. And it's Newcastle 2, West Bromwich Albion 1.
Well, there's a lot to like about this. Firstly, I like that Barnes is hiding behind the referee. And so when the ball's rolled in for the corner, he has to strike. But what he does there, he doesn't rest on his laurels and go, oh, it's a shame my shot didn't go in. He follows it in. Right, maybe that ball might break to me, be the ball. And when he does, he gets there ahead of the goalkeeper. But that's ambition, be the ball. And he does just that. I talked about him being a talisman. How often is it that he's come off the bench and scored? He'll hate me for saying this. But it's like, oh, you want that. You want him to come off the bench and score. Almost when he starts, he's disappointing, isn't he? But he's done that time after time.
Yeah, brilliant from Harvey Barnes. Excellent from Newcastle, and all the work to do for West Bromwich Albion. They scored really early on in the second half against Burnley at the weekend, which I thought was their biggest biggest positive from that game was how brightly they came out in the second half. Well, they're now going to have to do something similar and respond well in this second half because they trail by 2 goals. Is there anything West Brom can do differently to avoid that goal, or is it just almost inevitable in the way that Newcastle scored it?
I think the fact that they were all defending deep there, you've got to expect that roll ball to the edge of the area. Teams are cute now, aren't they? Everybody seems to have a dead ball coach who's going to work something out. Like I said, I thought it was really smart from Barnes. Starts off by sort of just stood behind the referee a little bit. He's like, you can't see me. So initially, I think it might have been a little bit harder to pick up. He's like, I'm not interested. I'm stood behind the referee. Now I'm on. But you've got to know when he's on, and you can't just have banks set so far back that you can't stop somebody getting a shot away at the edge of the area. So that's really poor. Again, it's systematic stuff from West Brom. But then everything that happens after that, once the ball gets to him, he's scrambling and it either works or it doesn't. Nothing they could do at that point. But like I said, Barnes with lots of enthusiasm to get in the box after his initial shot. He's blocked away. He's desperate to do well.
Here come Newcastle again. Ramsey into Willock inside the penalty area, looking back towards Ramsey. Not dealt with. Willock then from the penalty spot. Should have scored. He knows it as well. Joe Willock, brilliant opportunity to get his second in 2 games. Had a great chance earlier on in this one. Fired just wide of the post. On this occasion, links up brilliantly well with Jacob Ramsey, who struggled in that first half. And I think, John, I'll be honest with you, Joe Willock's got to score.
Nah, I don't think so. I think you'll be dreaming about it tonight. But when you're on the half volley, on the half turn, try to get your foot over the top of the ball is a difficult thing to do. You instinctively swipe at it. Like I say, he'll be dreaming about it tonight because he'll think, it was there for him. I thought initially he might just have had a shot anyway. I think he's so desperate for him and Ramsey to do well. He plays the extra ball to Ramsey when perhaps he shouldn't have done. But there we go, right thing at the right time, and maybe you get a goal there. But I thought it was understandable that he missed. But here come Albion.
Yeah, Albion looking for a response. Oh, it's not a great save from Scheisse. Still the chances there. Joao, I think, has just gotten away with it as he palmed it into trouble. Isaac Price was in there challenging still, though. With West Brom come on the attack. Price, ball towards Stewart, tries to turn it around the corner. Good interception from Stewart. And Newcastle live to fight another day. Barnes driving forward, pulled back there by Nzingula. And I think, is that going to be West Brom's first yellow card of the evening? We'll wait and see. Yes, it is. It is going to be a yellow card for the 20-year-old. It does give me a chance to now finally run you through the lineups in full for Newcastle. Jarwin in goal. A back four of Dedic, Chow, Botman and Hall. Midfield 2 of Stur and Ramsey, with Murphy, Willock and Barnes supporting Nick Voltemade through the middle. As for West Brom, it's Ingram in goal, back for Townsend, Campbell, Mepham and Williams. Midfield 4 of Price, Diakite and Zingula and Whitwell, with Morgan and Stewart the front 2. That's a really big opportunity that for West Brom, which shows that they're still in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Zingula breaks into the box there, and I felt he was shooting rather than trying to find the 3 of the red shirts that were in there. I thought that Jimmy J. Morgan had just nicked the ball away there and was breaking free, and the referee had judged that he'd fouled his man. He's a little bit unlucky there. Yeah, so Nzingula breaks forward, and I felt he was a strike at goal. Jean made a bit of a mess of it, pushing it back out, and then Price tries to get on the end of it, and Newcastle scrambled well enough at that point. But, they're very lively tonight. They've got all these young kids full of enthusiasm and no shortage of talent in those kids as well. And I think win, lose or draw, it'll stand them in good stead tonight. They're up against the top team. With all the will in the world, they probably don't want to be going in this competition anyway too long. They can't. Yeah, they could give a good account of stuff, but you can't really see them winning it, can you? So it's all about, playoffs at least for Albion this season. They look good enough for that, don't they? I think we both agree about that. They even could get in the schmozzle for being top 2. They've been that impressive at the start. I just think the squad's not big enough to sustain a long-term challenge unless they can find some money and bring a few more in. But the quality is there, undoubtedly.
Newcastle on the attack again. Willock over on the far side, one-on-one with George Campbell. Plays it back off to Harvey Barnes, who'll move it square to Ramsey, edge of the penalty area, back to Barnes once more. This time Whitwell back doing a bit of defending. Ramsey again in possession, corner of the penalty area. Back to Barnes, every single West Bromwich Albion player behind the ball, looking to try and hold on as Stur will move it onto the near side for Chow. Chow's got Dedic on this near side. Instead we'll feed Murphy. Murphy tries to turn it around the corner to Voltemade. Well intercepted by Price, but he's done too much with it as the Northern Irishman and ran into trouble. And Stur will feed Murphy. Was Murphy fouled there by Diakite? Referee said yes. I'm not convinced. I get the feeling John might not be either. And that's going to be a free kick in a relatively dangerous area here for Newcastle.
Yeah, well, Price lost it. It was won back by Stur, but then I felt that Diakite had every right to go for that ball. He was upside and struck at the ball, won it. Then the play goes down, the referee buys it, doesn't he? He buys the disappointment of the crowd with the play going down, but it wasn't a foul. And then he puts him in the book, which is a terrible decision from the referee. I also thought the Nsingula thing, yeah, he could have given that a yellow card, and he did. But where was the card for Voltemada for something similar in the first half? So I don't think that Robert Madley's having a good game particularly. It's a big cauldron of noise, mostly coming from Newcastle fans. I get that. But you've got to let that wash over you and do your job, and I don't think he's doing it well enough.
Well, we've already seen one brilliant free kick this afternoon. Or this evening, I should say. We're now at virtually 9 o'clock. Seen one brilliant free kick so far this evening. Could we see a second? It's what, 25-30 yards away from goal. Pretty dead centre. Slightly angled to the left, but
it's going to take
basically down the middle.
Yeah, it's going to take a hell of a hit to beat the keeper from there. But then again, there isn't really the angle to do much else.
No. So it's Hall and Dedic standing over it. You'd argue it maybe suits Dedic, and with where the Newcastle wall is set up, you'd argue that maybe it is going to be Dedic to hit it, as it's just to the right of the West Bromwich Albion wall. Jimmy J. Morgan has to have been the draft excluder behind what is a very tall four-man wall, I have to say, for West Brom.
There's no need for a draft excluder. There's no way Daisy Cutter gets it.
No, and it's straight into the wall. The shot doesn't even get there, even trying to go over the wall. Dead it straight into the face, I think, of George Campbell, who has been left seeing stars by the looks of things on the floor, as he seems quite taken aback with the way that ball has hit him. And referee Robert Madley immediately stops it, suspecting a head injury. Let's have a look at the replay here. How does he take this? Oh, yes, wow. Right in the forehead, and that is going to be a painful one. He struck it well enough, Dedic, but needed to get it over the wall, and yeah, nowhere near.
He got hit by Tyson there, didn't he? He was trying to stay up, but his knees weren't obeying him, were they? And they were the first things to crumble, and then he goes down. But he was jib-jabbering away on the floor, wasn't he? Yeah. And so he was thinking there, there's no way that you're going to drag me off this field. Anyway, it's a disappointing free kick, that one. It was a long way out. I felt that the other free kick, the Price one, was... He had that little bit of, we think it's going to be a cross, but it could be a shot. Jeopardy. That was just going to... they didn't have the angle to chip the ball in, really. So they went for blood, but the only blood, maybe off the lip of George Campbell. He looks all right, doesn't he? But he's going to have to go off. They've got all the protocols in place now for that. He's shaking his head, but off he goes. And well, we don't know if he's failed or not with his protocol, but he still looks a bit dazed, doesn't he, really?
I think he's shaking his head because I think he's been told, well, presumably he's been told he's going to have to go off for a minute, and he's not overly happy that West Brom are now going to be down to 10, a centre-back short and a captain short as well, after he was struck in the face and didn't get a choice as to whether the physios were going to be called on or not. Newcastle will restart this game in attack, with Murphy immediately swinging the ball in towards the back post. Ingram does well to punch clear, but West Brom will have to sit in for the moment now that they're down to 10. Here's Hall for Newcastle, plays the ball over to the far side for Barnes. Probably the weakest of the front four that started the game on Sunday, it has to be said, against Liverpool, but has obviously come off the bench this evening and really shone with that early second half strike to put Newcastle in the lead. Here's Dedic now down the near side up against Jimmy J. Morgan. We'll move it back to Murphy. He's been quiet so far. Stur now, attempted ball into the box, cleared away well by Alex Williams, only as far though as Lewis Hall, who will then play it over onto the far side for Harvey Barnes. Cuts in on his right boot, thought about the ball into the box, instead will lay it off to Ramsey. Ramsey, ball to the back post, well left by Connor Townsend, and that'll just bounce out of play for a goal kick. I don't think there have been any other goals in the second half of the EFL Cup game so far. No, Tottenham still lead by the 2-0 at home against Charlton, still 0-0 between Bradford and Burnley, and at half-time it's Preston 0, Everton 1. So no other news to bring off. The draw for the next round will be completed after the Everton game, as that was the 8 o'clock kickoff, as Ingram will launch this long left-footed ball from the goal kick forward. Headed away well by Botman, nodded further back by Mepham. Campbell now returns to the field and will just play the ball back to his goalkeeper, who himself will go along again. According to referee Robert Madley, Morgan just stepped into Dedic there, and that's going to be a free kick for Newcastle once more, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. That might be one of those where Morgan, without the eyes on the ball, has made things a little bit too obvious that he was only ever playing the man. But an hour gone at St James's Park, independent off studio-based commentary. Newcastle United 2, West Bromwich Albion 1. West Brom, correct me if I'm wrong, John, have only really mounted the one attack so far in this second half, which will disappoint James Morrison, because throughout the season they've looked better in second 45 performances. But so far this evening, they've absolutely been second best in this second period of play.
Yeah, absolutely. And their one chance was a good one, though. When they broke forward into the box, they had lots of numbers with them. So there's an ambition and an enthusiasm when they do get their opportunities. You know, they throw bodies forward, but they've had to do a lot of defending, and it's just that extra little bit of class from the Newcastle players, more expensively assembled. Just one or two for Albion who would sort of normally start, wouldn't they, if it was a league game, the likes of Styles and all that. But Albion looks pretty strong tonight, really. They're missing their striker, aren't they, Hegebo, because of that adjudged handball that was given after the game had finished. Of course, 2-game ban for him, wasn't it? So I think that's been played out tonight. So they're missing a star striker and all that. But I think Albion's still giving a good account of themselves. They're not done and dusted yet, but just a sense that Newcastle are more likely to score next. As we see Voltemade crumble in the box. You could have carded him there for simulation. I think he went down way too easily. But anyway, the counter-attack is on. Here come Albion. Oh, they can't make it stick.
They look a little bit out of ideas, I think, West Brom. Jimmy J. Morgan there. Oh, that's not a good tackle from Barney Stewart on the far side. Trying to bring down Sven Botman. That's going to be a yellow card for the young centre-forward. We're going to have a word, a couple of Newcastle players, for some challenges down the other end of the field. Jimmy J. Morgan tried to play out from the back, sort of lost his head and kicked through the back of Jacob Murphy, not before the ball rolled through to Nick Voltemade. We'll just see a replay of it now. Not a great tackle from Jimmy J. Morgan. And then Voltemade picks the ball up inside the box. Didn't look like there was a whole host of contact. And I think Voltemade knew there wasn't that much contact. And was almost sort of hoping he wasn't going to be carded, like John's just suggested. But Barney Stewart was yellow carded for his tackle over on the far side on Sven Botman. I wouldn't be surprised if we see changes sooner rather than later from James Morrison, because I just think at the moment things aren't quite working out when you've got Felix Horn-Meyer, Jason Malumbi, Nolan Galvez, all who can offer something in the final third. You probably have to start looking towards your bench sooner rather than later so that you give them a chance to settle into the game. It's
one of two things, isn't it? One is, you made a good start to the league. This was always going to be a bridge too far, perhaps. Maybe you just take your most important players off your first teams who you can't cope without, and just say, right, okay, bring fresh legs out, then see what we get. But we're going to go again at the weekend, and okay. I think this was always going to be a learning curve, this game anyway, and they've acquitted themselves well, haven't they? So it could be that, or you shove all in and say, right, we want to do something today. We want to be good. But here we go. This is coming on. Elanga's coming. I don't think it's going to get any easier for West Bromwich Albion at this point.
No, it's Willock who departs for Johan Wisser as the first of these three changes made by Newcastle United and Matthias Geisler. So Wisser on, Willock off. Been impressed with Willock this evening. I think he's put in a decent shift and shown a bit of quality. Jacob Murphy also departs as well. He's replaced by Anthony Elanga, who I have to say made Milos Kerkez look comically bad on Sunday. He really did. Fantastic performance from the Swedish international. And then the third of those changes, Lewis Miley will enter the fray. I assume it'll be Sean Sturr who departs. Indeed it will. On a yellow card, still only 18 years of age. Miley comes on to replace him. So, three like-for-like changes, and hopefully from a neutral point of view we get to see the quality that we saw at the weekend from these three, because I thought all three of them absolutely superb, particularly Johan Wisser, who had his best game in a Newcastle shirt on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, quality subs to bring on. It's like steady the ship. You want to give your best players time off, don't you? This Carabao and see your way through, manage your way through it, and it looks like Matthias Jessel, you know, doing it the time-honoured Premier League way. You know, oft times it's like, well, if it's all going wrong, we bring our best players on. But at this stage of the season as well, just to get a bit of game time into players. Viss has not seen much play, has he? And you know, he needs to sort of build up air this team. But it's all Newcastle now. It has been all this second half, and more likely to go and grab a third goal and Albion get back in it at the minute.
Yeah, here it is now with Dedic down the near side. Feeds Anthony Alanga. I don't think we'll get the space out wide that he did on the weekend, but he'll certainly still have an opportunity to have a run at his fullbacks. As Potman has ended up in a heap again under the challenge of Barney Stewart. He hits the deck a lot, doesn't he, Sven Botman? I know he's clearly a talented footballer, and he had a good game of the weekend and had a pretty decent game tonight, but any time I see a striker go within a yard of him, he's on the floor. It'd be a little bit of a worry of mine if I was a Newcastle United fan.
I think that you know, they've had centre backs who've had all sorts of problems with injuries. You just think, oh, go down before everybody gets close to me. You know, better safe than sorry. You don't want to be injured in a game like this at this stage of the season either. So yeah, maybe a bit of safety first, playing the old soldier a little bit from him. And I don't think the referee's good enough to spot the difference anyway.
No, probably not. Voltemade now looking to try and move Newcastle forward. Tries to feed Lewis Hall just behind the England international. So West Brom get it back and try and play through the midfield. That's a good challenge from Jacob Ramsey. He's had a much better second half in this one. As the former Villa man plays a nice ball out to Dedic on this near side. He'll fancy a run at Whitwell if he can open up the space. He's ran straight into him in the end and attempts the ball into the box, but just deflects through to the hands of Matt Ingram, and an opportunity for the veteran goalkeeper to slow things down with an eye towards the weekend. It's a trip to Middlesbrough for West Brom, so really interesting clash at 12:30 on Saturday, that one. Look forward to getting to watch that. That'll be a really interesting time for Newcastle. That's a trip to Tottenham at 5:30 on Saturday, so both will feature on the first day of the weekend, and both with, I think, really interesting games of football. I wouldn't like to pick a winner in either of those two.
No, not at all. Borough have spent a little bit of money. They're sort of thereabouts, aren't they, in the division this season? And at the River side, it's not going to be easy. But again, you know, I think Albion have played well enough again to suggest that there's cohesion about what they're doing. They know what they're doing. You know, it looks like they might have just come unstuck tonight against a team expensively assembled, but they would have a much better chance at the Riverside, I think.
Yeah, really impressive summer transfer window of Middlesbrough, I have to say. I mean, there's not many championship sides that can spend 20 million on the striker, which is exactly what they've done. Jacob Ramsey not overly happy with, I think, some words said
Price
to him on this near side. Isaac Price tried to turn away from him. He was flattened by Jacob Murphy, was the former Everton and Standard Liège man. Ramsey just letting him know what he thinks about whatever was said. As Hall now over on the far side will try and step forward and cause an issue. Lays it off to Harvey Barnes on his right boot. Back off to Lewis Hall. This game taking down to almost a training match speed now, with Newcastle happy to knock it from side to side. Miley, ball onto the Newcastle right for Dedic. Early ball into the box is headed away by Campbell, and then back in towards the danger zone by Lewis Miley. Still West Brom can't get it clear. It's been a problem for them throughout the second half. Chow lays it off to Ramsey. Quick 1-2 between himself and Barnes. For Ramsey will just knock it to Miley on his right hand side. Ramsey again over on the left. Will lay it off to Barnes with a strike from distance, and that's straight through to the hands of Matt Ingram as he fails to get underneath that strike. But we're 3/4 of the way through this one. Independent off-tube studio-based commentary. Newcastle United 2, West Bromwich Albion 1. To take us through to the end of the 90 minutes, I'll hand it over to John.
Yeah, one-way traffic now, and Newcastle keep breaking forward. They've got the lead, a narrow advantage, but it looks like there's a big gap between them right now. Newcastle again, they found their way around the back. An opportunity that's well made a mess of it with Anthony Elanga, who played well at the weekend, but the flag had gone up. Maybe that's why he shot that conviction. He didn't know which foot to go with, did he? And he piled it into the side netting. We're going to see wholesale changes now for Albion, which suggests that they do want to get into the game. You know, it looks like Styles is coming on. Anyway, Insigula is the first one off. So yeah, they're making a treble change here. Malumbi is one of those coming on. I saw Styles coming on as well. So I think they're to some extent saying, right, do you know what, we want this still, and we're going to give it a good go. So fair play to that. You know, I like the endeavour of that. I was thinking that maybe that I'd be wrapping players up and saying we'll go again at the weekend, but the football game that they're still in, and they fancy that. Diakite's come off as well. So I didn't see the third player who came on. So Styles and
so it's Styles, Malumbi and Maya that have come on, and then obviously Nzingula, Diakite and Morgan that have gone off. So it'll be interesting to see how they line up now. Maya played just behind Jimmy J Morgan at the weekend, so whether he'll play just behind Barney Stewart tonight, we'll have to wait and see. Whether Styles comes into midfield or not, again, we'll have to find out. It looks like Styles has indeed stepped into the midfield. I know you mentioned about wrapping players up for the weekend. I think I still think that potentially James Morrison is just trying to work out who he wants where at times, and potentially he's thinking, well, with Hegebo naturally coming back into the side, who am I going to put around him?
Yeah, here they've worked their way to the edge of the area. Stewart goes to strike, and it's blocked away at source. And maybe they could have done a little bit more. They had 2 or 3 round the ball, but it bundled around a bit there for them. But Stewart decided, all right, okay, let's put an end to the nonsense and put a shot on the end of it. I don't know if that was the right thing to do, though, but that was a good spirited break from them. Yeah, and fresh legs. When I'd seen him this season, I thought Myra played pretty well. Styles has got a lot of energy about him, you know, and it looks like he's playing ahead of Connor Townsend. So he's out the right-hand side. Of course, I thought Morgan played okay, but Myra will be expected to go that little bit further up the field. Anyway, fresh legs. They looked like they were getting beaten, didn't they? And now it's just giving them a bit of impetus. Anyway, the ball back with Newcastle, who got a free kick. The flag had gone up on the far side. Ball goes backwards, and yeah, all the way back to the keeper. We haven't mentioned him much, Jamin. He's had very little to do apart from pick the ball out the back of the net once. He's hardly been called in to make a save. Kevin Danso's got a third for Spurs. We looked at the Charlton team, and although they'd made a great start to the season, they were not interested in this game at all, were they? And Tottenham were. They fielded quite a strong side, so no surprises there. Here at Mara skips around the challenge. They're at the edge of the area, and then a little flick on from Whitwell doesn't reach the intended target. Styles stops Voldemort making any progress, but he shepherded the ball pretty well, and he can go back. See how then long ball over the top, not bad. Elanga brings it in, and then he hops around a couple of would-be challengers, comes away with the ball. He wasn't the favourite to do that, but he did. Elanga then, so he got his move from Forest. I don't know if he was moving sideways or frontways, but both the two teams had struggled last season, and of course Forest hadn't made a great start to the campaign. But Elanga's a decent player, I think. Anyway, now Albion having to play their way out from the back. Mepham, little triangle back to the keeper, and then back into midfield, and off they go again. So they have got Townsend left-hand side, and looking for Styles ahead of him. He'd gone very narrow. He picks the ball up again. Styles then out of his feet. To Malumbi getting a feel of the ball, just over the centre circle. Ball out right. to Whitwell. Like I said, he's not a natural wide man. As the ball back to Malumbi, edge of the area. Again, very thoughtful play, and then just overdo it. Ball to Whitwell, and then the next thing is chasing after it and lumbers into the back of his man and gives away a free kick. You can see all the youth there for Whitwell. Sometimes you just got to know percentage play, leave it be. Tiano Barry's grabbed his second for the Toffees, and at Deepdale, another massive load of disappointment. They. I can't remember the last time that P&A have really been a force. Sometimes when they have a little spell of doing well, you think, well, where's it come from? It does look like there's going to be another change for Albion pretty soon. Tamer Bani, who's a striker, is coming on. Again, he's only young, but he's played a handful of times. Anyway, the ball breaks here for Stewart. Ball out to the right-hand side. Can they get across in Whitwell? Just on the overlap now. It's a decent cutback from him, and he just one drop from.
He's given a penalty.
They were claiming a handball, and Madley's seen it. He's given that against Lewis Hall. He can't believe it. I thought it looked a bit suspicious, but the referee been wholly positive. He'd given Albion nothing all night. So this is a surprise.
He won't believe his luck, Lewis Hall. This is 2 handballs in 2 games. I mean, it's not a handball. It's off his thigh into his arm, which by the letter of the law I don't think can be a handball unless I've seen that replay wrong. He's absolutely furious. Is the former Chelsea man. He's basically saying what can he do? Honestly, I mean, I thought the one at the weekend was a penalty. I'm way less convinced with this one. So that is unfortunate for Lewis Hall. He's beside himself. I get the feeling that Harry Whitwell might also think that it's not a penalty because he's found the whole scenario absolutely hilarious over on the far side. But I got to commentate on Isaac Price scoring a penalty to secure his brace on Sunday. That penalty took the game away from Burnley. This goal won't take the game away from Newcastle. I was about to caveat, if he scores, won't take the game away from Newcastle, but it'll put West Brom in a fantastic position.
So Isaac Price then just takes a deep breath. Goalkeeper bouncing up and down. Joan up steps Price, and he's very comfortable. Keeper goes the wrong way and then boots the post, but it's 2 apiece. How did this happen? Well, a bit more enthusiasm, a few changes, a bit of brightness from Morrison. Just saying, we're not accepting it. We're not taking it. We're still in the game. It's a 1-goal game. Come on. And they've done just that, haven't they? Lewis Hall is dead unlucky there. But one hand of me thinks that, when the ball hits you on the knee, bounces up and hits your arm, my other thought about that is that if the arm's not there, and if he doesn't stop it with his hand, maybe it breaks through to a man in a red shirt who's going to tap it in. So I do have that other thought as well. But again, Price took it beautifully, and the Albion fans, there's plenty of them. It's a fair trip to make, and at the moment they're pretty pleased they've done it at 2 apiece, and that gives a bit of hope. Jessler played all his cards as well and brought a stronger team onto the field in the second half. Immediately paid dividends, but here we are again, Luke. We're even. And from looking down and out, Albion, it's anybody's contest now.
Yeah, Ewan Shawan's been yellow carded as well in the build-up of that penalty. I'd like to see the replay of the handball again. I mean, Lewis Hall won't be able to believe he's had 2 and 2 against him. I was certain, even in real time, that it was a penalty on Sunday. I don't think there were too many outside of a Newcastle persuasion that could argue against it being a penalty for Liverpool on that occasion. I'm not sure there are a huge amount even of a West Brom persuasion that would be confident that it is a penalty, but Robert Madley certainly seems certain it was. So again, I'd like to have another look. I'd like to be able to have it slowed down.
I think the other thing is for the referee, he sees from a certain angle. And maybe we're the benefit of seeing it slow mo. Here come Newcastle into the box. They go. Shot comes in, pinks off the post, and Lewis Hall nearly paid his teammates back there for that. handball. I think it was him with the strike anyway. I might be wrong, but they're all queuing up at the edge of the area. Barnes was knocking around as well. Ball goes far post. Barnes puts it back in. It's a chance for Visser, and he's put it right into the stand. Very difficult to get that right. Reaching for the ball. You need to scrape at that somehow. He got too much on it.
Yeah, it's a difficult finish, but it's a finish that, I'll be honest, I've seen Johan Wisser pull off, and it's a finish that he's got the quality to pull off. He's frustrated in himself. Lovely move, though, from Newcastle. It really, really was, and it ought to have been finished off. Double change now being made by James Morrison. So as John mentioned earlier on, Tamer Bani, the Jordanian forward, he's ready to come on. He comes on to replace Harry Whitwell. And then, interesting enough, Isaac Price is going to be brought off as well. And it's Oliver Bostock who's going to come on to replace him. The 19-year-old Welshman who's come through the West Bromwich Albion Academy. He comes on to make his first appearance of the season, having been on the bench for West Brom at the weekend. Interestingly enough, obviously, this game does go straight to penalty should it finish level. So the fact that they've taken Isaac Price off would suggest to me that James Morrison feels his side can win it inside the 90 minutes.
Or, yeah, I think it was a mistake.
Or he's got it wrong.
Or he got it wrong, yeah. I felt like I could see the look on Isaac Price's face, but I think it's more about protecting the family silver. As the ball comes across and it's swept in by Harvey Barnes. He's done it again. How many more times? This kid, a fox in the box. He knows the way to goal. Right foot strike, ball coming from his right-hand side. Inside the box, the marking was poor. And there we go, Newcastle back in front.
You couldn't write it. As soon as he takes Isaac Price off, a goal comes from a move down the near side. It's a really good ball in to Harvey Barnes, taking nothing away from Newcastle United, but West Brom have made changes and they've completely opened up. I mean, I saw Callum Styles score one of the worst own goals I think I've ever seen at the weekend. He's way too bothered about getting his hands behind his back than he is closing down Dedic inside the penalty area. As you just said, John, terrible marking inside the box as well, but it's far too easy for that ball to come in. Bearing in mind, Elanga makes a move down the near side and he doesn't cross the ball in straight away. It's not like it's an early cross from Elanga. No, he plays a pass along the floor into the penalty area for Amar Dedic. Yeah. And still, there was plenty of time for the Bosnian to pick out Barnes for his second assist of the evening. I mean, it's hardly been convincing from Matthias Eisler tonight, for Newcastle and Matthias Eisler tonight, but it'll be so important for Newcastle to hold on from here on in so the German can get an early victory in charge of his club and settle the nerves. But again, similar to the weekend, they've arguably been the better of the two sides. They've definitely had more chances to kill the game off, but we're talking about late goals from both sides that are ultimately gonna lead to a result in the game, and that be a little bit worried if I was Newcastle, but take nothing away from the fact that they've conceded, straight away gone down the other end and caused issues.
Yeah, they sure have. Yeah, there were several mistakes in the Albion defending there. I mean, Elanga's a good winger, and you expect him to cut the ball in, but he's cutting the ball into Dedic at the edge of the box, who is essentially unmarked, who cuts the ball further into Harvey Barnes, who again has found space in the box, and it's time to find a good finish. Yeah, it all happens in the twinkling of an eye. Don't get me wrong, but still, you know, you've got to have eyes open. It's not the time for ball watching. You know, if Albion had got youngsters out on that left-hand side, but they're not. They got two really good quality left-backs out there in Connor Townsend and Callum Styles. So quite how that happens to them, I don't know. Maybe they were focused on trying to get forward and get their own goal. You know, sometimes you feel you're back in the game and everything's positive and let's go on and win it, and then forget that you've got a job to do at the other end. Voltemade had gone a little bit deep. He's had an interesting game tonight. I think again, jury's still out. I was wondering whether Newcastle should be a 4-4-2 so you could get the best of him and Visser together. Foul in the middle of the park, and this game not quite done and dusted. Styles chopped down.
I think unfortunately for Voltemade, you talk about that front two. Look at the game against Liverpool on Sunday, and Wissa and Asula linked up brilliantly, with Wissa playing just behind Asula, and it's where Wissa's played throughout the majority of pre-season as well. So it almost looks as though that sort of number 10 position is going to be a rotation of Wissa and Willock. We've seen Willock score at the weekend, play really well in the first half in particular tonight. Then Wissa's come on and made an impact, having also been brilliant again on Sunday. So it almost feels like those two are set, and if Voltemata can't offer something up front like Asula did at the weekend, then you almost start to think, well, he either plays second string striker on occasions and doesn't look great, or he's third choice in that number 10 position.
Wow, they spent a lot of money on somebody who's in that position. This time last year it was Will Asula who was saying, oh, you know, you're kidding, he's not good enough. But then he turned a corner here, a cross comes in from Albion, and well, it's forced behind by Dedic, safety first there, but it's a corner kick, and hope springs eternal for the Albion fans who are boinging there behind the goal. They've got another opportunity here. You never know, do you? Set piece. Can they get a good delivery in from Connor Townsend? It's going to be an outswinger from the left-hand side with his left boot. But a loaded box, and so Mepham and Campbell, those guys will be up there. Ball comes across. Headed away by Tiao. That was good stuff, and it'll be picked up by Styles. And then, in fact, Myron, he lays the ball back. So, again, Albion just able to reorganise. Can they get something going? Mepham had gone back now. Chased by Voltemata. Then finds Myra, who just forced to retreat. They've been patient. There's only 4 minutes left in regulation play. There won't be too much added on time. We haven't had too much faffing about. Was 2 apiece, but 3-2, and well, it continues my run of games with stacks of goals. On Monday night it was Fulham-Chelsea. Last night it was Lask against Celtic, and here we are, 5 more goals in. A shot from range, but that is not going to be in the goal column for George Campbell this time. I guess it opened up, but that's a bit desperate, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. When George Campbell's shooting from distance, you know, it is desperate. He never looked settled for that strike, and that's gone high into the stands. Very disappointing from the American. It's a shame I'm not doing any games with you next week, John, because if you're the guarantor of goals...
5 goals a game, mate. That's what I bring to the party.
To begin the season, it's not a bad record, although unless you've used up all your luck and it's 0-0 from here on in. I mean, I hope you're not. But yeah, really, really great game tonight, and great games as well the weekend. Oh, break off, that's Paul from Matt Ingram giving the ball away.
It is, but Visser can't take advantage, and he puts Barnes on the back foot. He, in turn, sloppy ball with Hall, and all of a sudden Botman miscontrolled, and the ball ends up going backwards. But yeah, at times Newcastle have shown their class, and what a guy to bring off the bench, Harvey Barnes. And he just reminds everybody, you know, you can have the odd bad game, but it just as well shows how difficult the Premier League is. You're a hero 1 week, can't you? You get that good matchup with somebody you can beat. Next week, you've got somebody you haven't got a clue. Barry's gets his hat-trick for Everton.
Maybe he's found his level against Preston.
And then Brendan Johnson scores.
Maybe he's found his level against Preston.
Yeah, can we play you every week? But that's it, you know. Sometimes you find that match, and you know, and it's great. Other times you're wading through treacle because you're up against good players. Here come Albion again. There was a little foul at the edge of the area, wasn't it? The referee's blown his whistle, and I think he's given it. It wasn't deadly obvious, but it's another chance here for Albion to do something. It was Tamer Danny who'd just been brought down. It looked a little bit soft, I thought.
Yeah, he flicks the ball away from Jacob Ramsey, doesn't he? And then he immediately recognises he's not going to get the ball as Ramsey cuts across, so he hits the deck. A little bit soft, but you can see why it was given. Shane Isaac-Price isn't on the field to have a go with this on his right boot, as Ramsey's picked himself up a yellow card for that tackle, but that might be more to do with accumulation than anything else. But they still do have Jason Mulumby on the pitch.
Yeah, and he's going to hit it right footed.
Oh, he's absolutely going to hit it, isn't he?
Yeah, it looks like that. They've got to disguise a man on the other side. No chance. It's going to be Mulumby, isn't it? Right footed. If he can get it right, he can go near or far post. It's just at that angle where you think either which way. Maybe more likely to go far side of the wall, top bin. Near side, there's a bit more space if he can get it up and over the wall. That side foot kind of hit. Anyway, let's see. Up he steps, hits it, and it's
Good
saved
save.
by the keeper, diving to his left. We'd have been surprised if he didn't get that save in, but well, he needed to make it. It was scraping in, wasn't it? So good enough that.
He'll do in the world of good as well. I know we're saying that he should save it, Jean, and he absolutely should. He does well enough, though, to not take a big step over to the side of the wall and allows him to come across. He had a horror show for the first goal. He's obviously conceded the penalty as well on debut. That, 20 years old as a goalkeeper, that can eat you alive. It really can. But to make that save, that'll do. That'll make him feel a lot better about himself. He's not expected to play huge amounts over Lucas Hornacek this season. So on debut, to make that comfortable save, I think that'll make him feel better about overall the way he's played tonight.
Yeah, I think so, and then everything's forgotten if you're on a winning team as well.
Exactly. When you're a goalkeeper and you make a mistake, it's so hard to make up for that error, isn't it? That I can imagine that'll have been eating at him during half-time throughout the second half.
I think a lot of the players, they're focused on the mistakes, and particularly when you're young, it can be that thing that you've got to let yourself off. Good players tend to do that, don't they? But anyway, there are plenty of perfectionists and don't like to get anything wrong. Barney Stewart now on the ball. 6 minutes have been put added time on, so the Albion fans thinking, well, look, we're not done and dusted yet. Malumbi out of his feet, good stuff from him. Finds Connor Town, and he's quite narrow, and he finds Styles out on his left-hand side. Ball goes one further out left to Bostock, who tries to get something on it. They try and do a nice neat triangle in the box. It doesn't work, and then Voldemort is brought down by Campbell. I thought he was, but the referee didn't give it. So here they come again. Malumbi flicks the ball to the edge of the area. It's not going to break for Williams though, and eventually that ball headed away. The Newcastle fans trying to just roar their men some encouragement to get them over the line, but Albion giving it a good go. There's a free kick, really badly bought. But I tell you what, Lewis Hall, he wouldn't want to be reffed by Robert Madley all the time, would he? Because he just a free kick bought there, and you can tell from Lewis Hall's face how disappointed he is with that decision.
He cannot buy a decision going his way at the minute, Lewis Hall. I mean, it's a little bit of a shove on his man, but nothing to send Banny over as dramatically as he hits the deck. You've got a feel for Lewis Hall. He played a lot of football as well in the last few days, so tiredness will absolutely be starting to set in. Really important now that the rest of the Newcastle side don't allow tiredness to set in and don't continue to make errors, because West Brom will punish them at some point if they do.
4 minutes left and not much time for punishment, but anyway, a ball driven to the far post, too deep. I was going to say there's nobody at the far post in case the ball's hit too long. I'd always put percentage man there. The amount of times you see that from that angle. It wasn't a good ball though, and again for Newcastle, just a collective sigh of relief. James Morrison takes a swig of water, but his team have acquitted themselves well. He should be proud of the way that they performed last night and the way that they've come back into it. I think he's been positive with the changes that he's made. They're not out of it just yet, but looking less and less likely. Time not on their side now as the ball goes out. The fact that Voldemort has been on the field for 90 minutes suggests he won't be playing at the weekend, I think. It just seems now maybe that whoever spent the money on him, it wasn't Matthias Jessel, and should he care, Ben Davies gets a goal for Spurs. They'll be enjoying their night tonight. As again, Elanga on the ball, little give and go. Dedic has had a good game. And Elanga happy to pump the ball backwards to his goalkeeper, the young Frenchman Ewan Jaran. It's the ball out his feet, and that's been mopped up. And then sloppy ball for Albion. They're beginning to look tired. A couple of times in the match, straight after half-time, they looked ragged, didn't they? They needed the injection of fresh blood when it came. Looked out on their feet. They made a good start to the game. Callum Styles fouled there, but the referee didn't give it. And now a spirited run forward from Hall, but the referee's given a free kick for him this time and not against him. What's going on? Hall still moaning at the referee, but let's take another look at it. He clearly tripped there, wasn't he? And he wasn't going anywhere, to be honest, but it was definitely a trip from Myra. Anyway, so Newcastle have the ball. There's only 2 minutes left, and yeah, they shouldn't be making a mess of it from here, although I did say the same thing about Celtic last night when they were 4-0 up, and that, of course, didn't go right for them. But Newcastle in no hurry to take this free kick. Madley blows his whistle. 2 stood over it. Johan Visser and Lewis Hall. Now they want to take it really, rather just they take it short, and in the end Hall goes backwards, and they've got a loaded box, but good disguise really. No point. Just playing keep ball now. As Dedic, really sloppy from him. He just floats the ball down the field, gives it straight away. It's with the goalkeeper now, and Ingram then will launch it long. Well, they look like a foul there, a free kick. They're getting annoyed there, but Botman jumped into his man. He didn't need to do that. So a stupid thing to do. We're running out of time, but it's a silly free kick, and you're just saying, right, deliver another ball into our box, please.
Yeah, it's really poor from Sven Botman, who very quickly got overtaken by Malik Chow in the pecking order of that Newcastle centre defence unit. And unsurprisingly, because I think Chow's a real composed player, Botman anything but.
Well, here's an opportunity then. They did put the ball in the box. It bounced, they got hold of it, but the out ball wasn't great. Elanga now, is he going to be sensible? Try and take it to the corner flag. He will. He said he just been pulled back there.
Oh, there's no way he's not given a free kick for that.
Oh, you are kidding.
Seriously?
You are kidding. Well, that should have ended the game.
Oh,
essentially,
wow.
There was the most blatant pullback there, and Anthony Lang. Anyway, the referees decided to call it quits. And so there we go, the final scoreline at St James's Park. Newcastle 3, West Bromwich Albion 2. Thanks for joining us.
Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting markets, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck. Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting markets, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck. Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting markets, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck. Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting markets, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck. Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting market, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary